Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. You know what to do by now. Get involved in the comments and the chat because we are live, or we might not be if you're joining us later on. Loads of stories to get through. Some of them positive, some not so much. So we'll get into all of them. So make sure you're joining us as well. Joining us in terms of getting involved. I want to hear your thoughts on all the latest Manchester United news. We've got a bit of an update on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid with Manchester United. We've obviously got the Garnacho tweet and the pushback from that and all the fallout from it. And yeah, we'll get into all that. And like I said, we can have a bit of a convo around it. Plus, as well, a bit of Wan-Bissaka news too, which is a little bit more positive than some of the other stories. Loads of people in the comments already. People discussing what has gone on with Garnacho and Onana. We'll get into that in a minute. First of all, though, Jacoya Trots this morning, Jay. Santa Notch this morning. Other people saying, you know, it's a bit of a storm in a teacup, whatever. We'll get into that. David Ponson says, morning, Jay. How's your auntie chafing? She's all right. She's on tablets. Let's start off, though, with Wan-Bissaka. Let's start off with something a little bit more positive, and then we'll get into the other stuff later. This is in the Mail. Man United receive a huge injury boost as Wan-Bissaka returns to full training after 6 weeks on the sidelines. But the Manchester derby will come too soon for the defender. So positive news in the sense that he's coming back. Wan-Bissaka is obviously an important player for Manchester United. He's been absent, as it says there, since September the 16th with a hamstring injury. He's now back in training, should be back, but not for this Sunday. We will have the press conference later, so we can give you an update there when we hear what's going on in terms of who's available and who's not. But it'd be very, very surprising if Wan-Bissaka's back for that one. But he should be back sooner rather than later. Good. We need him. We need all our players back, obviously, who are injured, but Wan-Bissaka is an important player for us. I've been very, very impressed with the way he sort of turned things around under Erik ten Hag. And I'd like to see him back in a United shirt, especially in the full-back positions. We've been struggling. Diogo Dalot's played a lot of minutes, and I think he's done a good job this season, but he's been moved to left-back at times, obviously right-back as well. He can play left-back. You can have Wan-Bissaka at right-back and Dalot at left-back if you wanted. Reguilon's back too, so it looks like finally we might be edging towards some options, because when you see Lindelof at full-back, when you see Amrabat at fullback, it isn't great, is it? Because those aren't players suited to that position. I know they can do a job there, and they do an admirable job there, but you want to see fullbacks in the fullback position. I do anyway. Maybe that's just me being old-fashioned. Stephanie Griffith says, morning, Wan-Bissaka back soon. Great news. Yep, I think it is. It's a little step towards hopefully getting a squad together that can start moving us up the table. Let's talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because this story has been doing the rounds. I've seen something in the Evening News. I think it's come originally from Miguel Delaney in the Independent, and it says, Sir Jim here, it's a bit dramatic, may abandon Man United takeover talks due to a huge Glazers deal breaker, and it's saying he could walk away if they don't give in to his demand. There's a little bit more here where it says, basically, he's still waiting, actually. He's still waiting for his initial minority investment to be given the green light. And then as you go further down the story there, I think it sort of explains how he outmaneuvered Sheikh Jassim, and also he's looking, I think, eventually at full takeover. I think that's one of the concerns there, is that if he isn't given a route to having a full takeover, then is it going to scupper the deal? You can see here, it says, according to the Independent, which is what I referenced earlier, so Jim is insistent on a path to majority ownership at Old Trafford, the subject of ongoing talks with the Glazers. So they're saying if they don't acquiesce, if they don't sort of say, yep, you can, or there is a pathway to full ownership, that could scupper the deal. We're still waiting for it to be ratified, the initial 25%, sorry. We'll see what happens on that front. It looks like it is going to happen. One of my pals ran me today, and he's like, I'm not giving up on Qatar yet. Well, I don't think that's happening. I said it to him on the phone. I said, no, I can't see Qatar coming in now. That looks done and dusted. Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks like he's going to be at least a minority shareholder in Manchester United, and according to these reports, that will be with a view to full takeover. I don't see a way Sir Jim Ratcliffe just wants to own a part of Manchester United and not be in full control. I know that there was talk of him having control over football decisions, but I think the intention has always been to have a full takeover. And if you look at the way the Glazers bought United, they did it in parts, they did it in increments. They didn't just come in and buy like 75% of the club. They bought like 1, 2, 3, 4%. It literally went up over a 2-year period. They went from not owning hardly anything of Manchester United to being the majority shareholders, to the point where everyone else who had shares was issued with a compulsory purchase order, and the Glazers became the owners, and the rest is history. Most of it pretty grim history as well, so we know what's going on there. Loads of people in the comments. Hit that like button, please, people. We're on 500 odd views, less than 100 likes. Come on, hit the like button. You know what to do. Let's get to 200 likes, please, people. Right, should we talk about Alejandro Garnacho? It says here, and you'll have seen this all over social media, seen it all over the news last night. Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho could face FA charge over social media post. We've got it there from the Manchester Evening News. And it goes on to say Alejandro Garnacho could face disciplinary action over a social media post in which he used gorilla emojis over a picture of Andre Onana's penalty save on Tuesday night. The 19-year-old put 2 gorilla emojis on the post of a picture of Onana that his Manchester United teammates celebrating his penalty save from FC Copenhagen forward Jordan Larsson, which turned out to be the last kick of the game. It says Garnacho deleted the post once he was advised of the potential racial connotations involved, but the Football Association is aware of it and have been in touch with United to get the players' observations. The governing body could yet charge the winger with a breach of their guidelines around racially sensitive media posts. Now, we've had the image, obviously, I've described it there from Garnacho, what he posted on Twitter or X, or what you want to call it. Andre Onana has done a response. I think we tweeted this ourselves. It says, Manchester United star Andre Onana breaks silence on deleted Alejandro Garnacho social media post. We can see here what he goes on to say here. It says, Andre Onana, we can scroll down, we've got the picture there. I think it says, if we can keep going, yep. People cannot choose what I should be offended by. I know exactly what Garnacho meant. Power and strength. This matter should go no further. Now, you think, okay, he's done a post which can have racial connotations. Now, for starters, there's a lot to get into it, and I'm going to try and sort of pick the bones of it because I want to get your take on it as well. So do get involved in the comments and the chat surrounding this, because I know it's quite a sort of a hot topic and an emotive subject as well, because some people think it's you know, he should do better. Others will think it's not his fault. Others will think, you know, it's not offensive at all. Some people may be offended by it. I get that it's quite a tricky subject, shall we say. So I'll give you my opinion on it. I want you guys to get involved and give me yours. For starters, this isn't the first time this has happened at Manchester United where someone's sort of found themselves in hot water because of a social media post. We saw it with Edinson Cavani, where he received a 3-match ban for a social media post after, I think it was a goal at Southampton. Now, I think he was given some sort of training around it. Also, the 3-match ban, I thought was especially when was quite harsh, because I think when you look at the way the FA have treated other players guilty of more serious allegations, I think, didn't John Terry get a 4-match ban for, whether you think John Terry, the context, whatever, John Terry shouted what he shouted at Anton Ferdinand. That was never in dispute. He stood on a football pitch and shouted "effing black, see you next Tuesday" at a fellow professional. And I think he got a 4-game ban, was it? And Edinson Cavani got a 3-game ban for a social media post. There was no intention there. I don't think he intended to be racist at all. But it can be seen that way, and he received a ban for it. Some people tried to compare that to the Luis Suarez incident with Evra. The difference between the Luis Suarez incident and Evra was Luis Suarez and Evra were arguing. Luis Suarez said what he said to Evra, and if you've not done it, you can go and look at the FA report on it, all 260 odd pages of it. I've read it. I've read it cover to cover because I'm a loser. And it's obvious they were rowing, and he said what he said as an insult to Patrice Evra, pinched his skin and was rowing with him and used that word. So it's completely different. But Cavani got a 3-match ban. The point I'm making here is the FA was surprised at the lack of Cavani social media training in the wake of the racism ban. So there's that element to it as well. And it's like, did Garnacho perhaps need a bit of social media training? Did he need a little bit of advice on, well, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say on social media, these are the emojis you can use, these are the emojis you can't use. Now, you might look at it and go, come on, Jay, does he really need social media training? Does he really need someone to tell him that? Well, yeah, he probably does. You know, he's a teenager. he's on social media. He's probably not aware. I don't think he meant that and as a racist insult at all. I don't think he did. I think what's happened here is he's probably used an emoji that he thought meant something without realising the connotations it can have. That's the big difference here, and I think that's what we need to remember. Context can be key. That's really important because my son's mixed race. If I call him a little monkey, I'm not racially abusing him. If someone's walking down the street and shouts monkey at him, they are. There's a difference there with the context, and I think that is important. Now, you might say, well, why does he need social media training? Because he's got over 8 million followers on his social media platforms. I don't think it's a bad idea to give a teenager with that much of a social media following a bit of guidance on what he should and shouldn't do on social media. When I was a journalist, we had social media training. We had someone coming into our company, a barrister who works with a lot of high-profile clients, a lot of celebrities, and give us social media training, saying what you can and can't do on social media. And some of it I wasn't aware of. And it was like, really, I didn't know you couldn't do that, or you could do that, or whatever. He'd give us social media training. I worked for a local radio station. I wasn't playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I didn't have over 8 million followers on social media. So I think a bit of training, a bit of guidance wouldn't go amiss. And I think context is important because I don't think Alejandro Garnacho meant to be racially insensitive or racially whatever you want to call it towards Onana. Onana's obviously not felt that way about it and feels like it's just his friend making a point about a great save that he's made. But you can see why the FA are looking at it differently. They're going, well, look, we know that these kind of emojis can be used to racially abuse someone. Now, I don't think that is the case here at all. I think the issue here is the context. And the FA always seem a little bit reluctant to look at the context. We've had it before. This isn't the first case where we've had an issue on social media with a social media post that a player has done, meaning it to be well-intentioned or to be a joke or to be praising a teammate, and it's been looked at as something else. So I'm always a little bit sort of curious as to how they look at it, the FA, whether they take context into consideration or whether it's this blanket ban on certain emojis, on certain words or phrases or whatever, or certain pictures because they consider them to be racially insensitive. I think that's the issue here. I think that you need to look at it and you need to give it a bit of context. Did Alejandro Garnacho mean to do what he did? In terms of mean to racially offend anyone? No, I don't think he did. Did he understand what he was doing? Probably not. Probably didn't know that was going to cause this offence, as he wouldn't have done it. So he probably could have done with a little bit of guidance from the club. Maybe the club could just give these young players a little bit of a briefing and go, look, these are the kind of things you can't get away with on social media. These are how they can be perceived. You might not realise it now, but this is why, and this is why it's best not to do those kind of things, not to post that, just to avoid any sort of issues like we're seeing now where a youngster could get a ban. He could get, more than likely, if he does get a ban, I'm not saying he should, it's going to be a one-game ban. Now, you might say it's only one game, but it's still a player getting banned for something that was completely avoidable. And if he was to say Mr. Derby, I don't know if he is or not, but if he was to say Mr. Derby, that's a player we need for Derby. Alejandro Garnacho has been fantastic against Manchester City. He's one of the few players that turned up in the FA Cup final, and he did very well against him at Old Trafford last season. He more or less helped turn the game around, and those last 15 minutes by Garnacho were phenomenal. And I think you could end up missing a player you need because he's just not been given the right bit of guidance. He's still only a young lad. He's a young lad in a different country, and he's not probably been given the protection and guidance that he could be doing with at a club like Manchester United. They should be looking after him. They should be saying, look, these are the things you can do, these are the things you can't do. Now, you might say to the FA, well, come on, can they not look at the context and realise it's just someone supporting his friend? Maybe he's used an emoji that's not the best one he could have used, but he didn't mean it in that way. But the FA always seem a little bit reluctant to do that. We saw it with, I think it was Bernardo Silva and Mendy. He posted a tweet that got him into trouble. I think he got a one-game ban. You can see it there, yeah. He was banned for I think it was one game and given a 50 grand fine. Again, it was a tweet to his friend or a post to his friend, but that didn't matter. They didn't look at the concept. They said, listen, this is an image you shouldn't have used. You're going to get a ban. The thing I have an issue with the FA as well is there seems to be a lot of inconsistency. We saw it with Mikhail Mudryk. Now, he had a TikTok video where he used the N-word. He used the N-word on a TikTok video, and this was flagged up and people were complaining about it and saying, what's going on here, you shouldn't be doing that. Now, I don't think he got a ban. I think he apologised for it, and it was, I think they moved on from it. Now, you might go, well, that, I think, happened before he arrived at Chelsea. That video was posted before he arrived at Chelsea, which may have given him a bit of leeway there. But the inconsistency comes from the fact that other players have been punished for historic posts. I think Jared Bowen was punished for an historic post. Andre Gray was punished for an historic post. So there seems to be, well, some historic posts you get punished for, others you don't. Context isn't looked at. It just seems a little bit like it's confusing. Personally, I think United can just do themselves a favour and do us a favour and do the club and the players a favour by giving these youngsters a bit of guidance. I think maybe the FA at times can look at context. Do you agree? Get involved in the comments and let us know what you think. Dancy Martin says, what's the harms of his actions? Liam Cross said, culture should not determine context. I'm sorry, I can't stand with that. Bexy says, why is politics in the game so much? Cameron Hall said, it's a bit sad mainstream media, SHIT on us no matter what. Even if the two players involved understand one another, the media have to stir in the pot. Natasha Snowden says, difference is Garnacho wasn't being malicious. It's a joke how woke football is becoming, she's saying there. Travelli says, of all the emojis in the world, WTF, I'm actually right, says, it will be used against him if he's ever falsely accused by someone. 218 Rail says, how about we tackle the real issues and real racists instead of banning a kid who meant no harm just to make it appear we're doing something? Zayn Ali says, didn't Cavani also get banned for unintentional racist posts? Yeah, he got a 3-match ban. Liam Cross says, Jay, a bit of common sense should come into it. Dara Connolly says, I bet none of these clowns can even define the word woke. I do feel like the word woke is massively overused, I'm not going to lie to you. Dan United 94 says, Jay getting on the duck in orange sauce tonight. That's a great shout. Glenn F17 says, I understand how it could be seen as racist, but surely the FA should think about what Onana has said, and Garnacho comes from a different culture. Wayne Davies says, this is what I don't like about wokeism. Again, we keep using this word. I do think the word woke is just bandied around sometimes willy-nilly. It's fine to call out offence where offence is intended, but the issue with wokeism is that offence is very often looked for where it doesn't exist. Harry says, unfortunately, the consequences of playing for the biggest club in the world. Brian Casey said, social media training should be part and parcel of professional football contract. What's his face says, this man is a woke lefty. I don't even know who he's talking about. He's talking about me, I'm not sure. Jay Fader says, yeah, I think we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Jay Hayes says, just another way for the FA to support City. I just feel this is avoidable. That's my thinking on it. I just feel this could have been avoided, and I feel like if Garnacho would have been told, look, these are the kind of things you can't do and you can do on social media, he wouldn't have used that emoji. I don't think he meant any harm. I don't think he meant it to be racially insensitive or whatever you want to call it, or even racist. Don't think he meant that at all. He's obviously just showing a bit of love for his mate. He's used an emoji that can be perceived that way. And you can argue maybe the context should be looked at, because of the context of this, it's him showing a bit of love for his friend. But those emojis can be looked at and they can be used to abuse people, but certainly not in this case. And I think the club would be better served, or would be well served, to get these youngsters or any player in a room and go, look, let's have a bit of social media training. Let's really go through this. Let's hammer these points home. Because it doesn't hurt, does it? It doesn't hurt to be given some guidelines, a bit of guidance from the club. I think most companies had it. I had it when I was a journalist, and I think having it when you're playing for Manchester United and you've got millions of followers on social media won't do you any harm, and it could avoid something like this, because I feel for the kid. I do. He didn't mean anything by it. He didn't mean anything offensive by it, and he could end up suffering with a fine and a ban, which we don't really want to see, do we? Dara Connolly says, I can understand why you'd need to take it down. The issue is that racist people won't care about the context, though Garnacho shouldn't be punished. Joe Go says, if gorilla can be considered racist, then we would remove the gorilla emoji. Is that an option? Mark Jackson says, hi mate, just saved the last minute penalty, and people actually think his first thought after he got home is to racially abuse him. People need to get a grip. Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious he didn't mean to racially abuse him. And I think everyone must realise that. Seriously, even if you're not a United fan, you must look at it and go, yeah, he's not racially abusing his teammate. The issue here is that racial incentive to use that emoji about a black player. And I think that's the problem you've got when this whole question of context. This is what I'm talking about. Is context looked at by the FA or the governing bodies when they investigate these matters? Do they go, actually, in the context of this, it's not someone trying to abuse someone or trying to discriminate against someone. It's someone just showing a bit of, love for their mate or support for their mate. Maybe he's used something that's ill-advised, but we don't think that he's meant it in a malicious way, so he doesn't deserve to be punished. Did they look at that? I'm not so sure they do. We will find out. We'll see what the actions are of the FA. I think it's one of those situations that was completely and utterly avoidable. I personally don't blame Alejandro Garnacho. I think the club needs to get these young players especially in a room, give them a bit of social media training, show them do's and don'ts, because it can be a bit of a minefield, especially when you're a teenager, you're on your phone, you've just won a game of football, the last minute winner, you're all excited and you get it, and you might use an emoji that you don't realise can have racial connotations. It can happen, and I think the club can do things to prevent it happening in the future. That's my take on it anyway. You may disagree. Sorry, Ann L says, just make it all public. Social media posts have to go through the club first. Have a dedicated team assigned to the players. Job done. Is that an option? Is that something? You might think that's a little bit draconian, but is it? If it avoids us missing players from bans, then I'm not that, I'm not that standing with it. If the club say, look, you can do what you want on social media, just, let us have a check first. Is that an option? Is that doable? I don't know. It's a suggestion. Matt Wick says, nobody said it was deliberately racist. I think that's probably true, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone really is saying that he deliberately meant to racist. Because, there might be someone out there, but it's not. I'm not seeing many people commenting on that. I'm going to wrap it up there anyway. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. I like the fact we've been able to have this discussion. I've been looking in the comments and the chat, and it seems to have been respectful. You might disagree with other people's point of view, but it's important that we do respect one another, because I think we all want what's best for Manchester United. We might disagree on what is the right way to go about this particular situation, but at the end of the day, we want our football club to be successful. We want our best players on the pitch playing for us. We're going to be back later on. We're going to have the preview of the Manchester derby. Are we confident on that one or what? I don't know, man. It just worries me. It really does. I hope we turn up better than we did in that first half against Copenhagen. Otherwise, it could be a long afternoon. So we're going to have that. Also, if you've not checked out our members section, we're going to have a members vid as well. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motti. This has been The Paper Talk, live from the studio. Thanks for watching.